Welcome to Follow South Jersey's Follow Salem podcast about the people, places, and all things good in Salem, New Jersey. On this episode, we talk with Courtney Swanson Davis, CEO of the Forman Acton Educational Foundation, along with Kim Smith, Director of Scholarships and Operations at Forman Acton. Listen as we talk about the scholarship program the foundation provides, the college savings accounts provided by the foundation, and other programs that Forman Acton Foundation funds. Hi, welcome to Follow Salem podcast. I'm Dean Johnson, editor of Follow South Jersey, and today we have representatives from the Forman Acton Educational Foundation. I have Kim Smith, who is a director of scholarship and operations. Hi, Kim. How you doing? And we have Courtney Swanson Davis, who is the CEO at Forman Acton Educational Foundation. She's been CEO for the past 7 years, correct?
CEO for the last 2 years.
CEO for the past, you've been with Forman Acton
Yes.
for 7 years,
Correct.
and you're the CEO for the past 2 years.
That is correct.
Well, thanks for coming. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for having us.
So let's start, Courtney. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Are you from this area originally?
I am not. I am not a native of New Jersey. I moved around a lot as a child. I've been in New Jersey the longest, though. I've been here since the 4th grade.
Okay.
Before I came to Salem, I would say that I lived in Central Jersey, but from Salem
That
is
magical
now
place
like,
called Central Jersey.
is
that
now
most
like
people call it
North Jersey. I grew up on Exit 9.
Okay.
And then, so I've been here, like I said, since the 4th grade.
What
so
brought you down to South Jersey?
The job.
Okay.
That was the
Job.
yeah.
At the Forman Acton job?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I currently live in Burlington County.
Okay.
So
All right, so you commute down.
I do.
Now, you are a lawyer by trade. You
Yes,
went to
I
school. So what made you go into law?
That's a really good question. I will say I actually didn't have a choice. I went to college. I went to the
Where'd you go?
illustrious Howard University in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And after college, I decided to work for a little bit. And my parents called one day and said, "Are you having fun working?" I'm like, "It's great. I'm on my own." They were like, "That's great. You have to go to grad school. We don't care where or what you do, but you need to go to grad school."
Right.
And my boyfriend at the time, who is now my husband, was like, "You talk a lot. You like to argue. You should probably go to law school." So I was like, I don't know, maybe. So I ended up taking the LSATs and I took the GRE because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I went the law school route. So
Okay. What kind of law did you practice? Or are you still practicing?
I am not still practicing.
Okay.
I'm still licensed, but
Right.
the foundation takes up all of my time.
Sure. And what kind of law were you practicing?
About 11 years before
Okay.
I transferred
And
over
what
to
type of law?
nonprofit. Corporate law.
Corporate law.
Yes.
All right. Very good.
Yeah.
And how does your lawyer background help you with what you're doing today with Forman Acton?
I think as far as having an open mind, that helps. It has definitely helped in this last 90 days, being able to understand the political climate that we're in, reading executive orders, going through kind of figuring out what that means. It has helped a lot. But other than that, I think as an attorney, you have to be a people person. And so I think that background has helped with the work that we do here in the foundation.
Okay, great. We'll get to that in a little bit. Kim,
Okay.
So tell us about your background. Where are you from?
Sure. I am born and raised in New Jersey my
Okay.
whole life. I've been, I won't say up and down, but started in Teaneck, New
Okay.
Jersey, so all the way up.
Yeah.
Giants fan, loyal Giants fan, Yankees fan, husband's a Mets fan. We're Jersey
We'll
through and through.
forgive you. We'll pass that.
And so I reside in Burlington County as well.
Okay.
I went to school at King University in Union, so stayed in state, and I'm currently working on my dissertation at Rowan University for my doctorate in higher ed and leadership.
Higher ed leadership. And what was your undergrad?
Communication and psychology.
Okay. And what were your aspirations with that?
To interview Kobe Bryant when he kind of fell off onto the sidelines. That was it for like the first 2 years. I thought that was what it was going to be, but no.
Right.
Yes.
What brought you down here to Salem?
The job.
What attracted you to this kind of nonprofit?
So I had a history of working in education, a bit of higher education, a little bit of admissions, a little bit of financial aid. And then I was with Catholic Charities for a few years as a business manager because I attained my MBA. And so I was doing a lot of financial. So I was running a couple of the counties, finances, Mercer, Monmouth, Burlington, about 5 or 6 counties.
Right.
And this position actually allowed me to join my love of the financial space as well as the educational space.
Right.
And so when I came here initially, I was managing the financials for the organization, and then transitioned into helping kind of create and develop the scholarship program as well.
Cool. And what do you do at Forman Acton? Actually, before we get to that, can you tell me who is Dr. Forman Acton?
Sure. So Dr. Forman Acton was a resident of Salem City, New Jersey. He was born and raised here. He went off to a lot of different prestigious schools, finished his career out in Princeton, New Jersey, was an engineer, majored in computer science. But he was very big in education, right, and kids pursuing their education. The way the story goes that I've gotten it from our previous CEO, who was actually friends with Dr. Acton, was sometimes he would sit in his window out on Market Street and see kids playing and thought that they should be able to have the same educational experiences that he had. He was able to travel the world and do a lot of different things, and he thought that all kids should have access to that type of education.
Right.
With that said, he ended up leaving us an endowment to be able to fund the scholarships that we do.
Okay. Can you tell us how big of an endowment?
So initially, it was about $32 million.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Initially.
Yes. It has grown since then.
It has grown since
It has
then.
grown
Okay. Look,
since
I was
then.
going in the wrong direction. It has grown.
It
Since
has
then.
grown since then.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, what do you do at, what is your responsibilities at Forman Acton? Yeah, I was going to change my question, but go ahead.
Okay. So as president and CEO, I pretty much oversee everything. We have 2 major programs that we promote. Our scholarship program, which we just changed to juniors in high school can now apply. And if they are selected, they will receive $50,000 over 4 years. Our second program is called the Acorn Fund Account. We are unique in that it's a college savings account open to all students and all children as long as they're a resident of Salem, New Jersey, Salem City, New Jersey, or they attend a Salem City public school.
Okay. So let's go a little bit more deeply into that real quick.
Okay.
So they're opening a savings account. So
Yes.
are they going to a local bank to do that, or are they doing it through? Is Forman Acton depositing?
Yep, so what we do is they could go to our website or stop by our office. There's an application process. If they're under the age of 13, parent has to do it for them. If they're 13 through 18, they can start the application themselves. Parent still has to sign off on it.
Right.
We just ask a couple of questions just to verify their eligibility. Once they're signed up, we will make an annual contribution into that account until they graduate from high school.
What is that contribution?
It just depends on what year they start. So it goes up in increments. So if you come in as a baby through, let's say, I believe it's 2nd grade, it's $100.
Okay.
If you sign up in high school, it's $1,000 a year.
So somebody could sign up their child in kindergarten to the Acorn Fund.
Yes.
And they'll get $100 a year up till 8th grade, and then $1,000 a year. Is that how it works?
It goes
After that?
up. I should know this. Middle school, I think it goes up to 500.
Okay.
And then high school, it goes up to 1,000.
So getting your child in
Early, yes, is recommended.
is very lucrative. I mean,
Yes.
it would, now this money has to be used for college?
It does.
It
does.
And how do you keep that restriction on there? Is the bank account partially in your name as well? Not your name, but the Forman Acton's name?
Yes, so we are the owners of the account, and then the student is the beneficiary of the
Right.
account. And so once they graduate, they can request the funds, and then it gets sent directly to their school of choice.
How many kids do you have in this? I mean, I would think like every single student here in Salem would be
That
breaking
is our
down your
goal,
door.
and that's what we work towards. Right now, I believe we're up to about 1,600 kids that are signed up.
Okay.
So we're working directly with the schools, which is great to make sure that every kid gets signed up.
Right. And can kids and parents put money into that account
They
as well? cannot. They
No,
cannot.
we are
It's
the sole
strictly the
contributors.
sole owners of
Yes.
that. That's awesome. And then after they graduate high school, how do they access those funds?
So they go on our website, they fill out a form to just say, hey, this is the school I'm going to, this is how much I'm requesting, and that's pretty much it. We verify that they're enrolled in school, We ask for a copy of their class list and their transcript, and then the money gets sent directly to their school.
So let's say they're in the Acorn Fund, are they still eligible for the $50,000 scholarship?
Absolutely.
So they can walk away with like $80,000+ towards, if not more.
It doesn't end up being that much. So as it stands right now, if you start your kid off, let's say in kindergarten, they go through 12th grade, our goal is to make sure they have enough to attend at least community college, and then be able to graduate with their associates debt-free. So they have about $8,000 in there.
Okay, for that
Yes.
account, for the Acorn account?
Yep.
That's amazing. Kim, so what is your role at Forman Acton? What is a director of scholarship and operations?
So oversight on the scholarship program from beginning to end, and so in the short amount of time that we've been on, we've evolved just a lot. Just working with our program, making sure we're kind of like looking at research and what that we're saying industry standard for a lot of things and trying to excel. The importance of wraparound services, really evaluating that, and then taking into account this community in particular and making sure that we're sufficiently serving their needs.
Right.
And so that includes all things. So we have financial literacy programs, incorporating mentorships programs. We are this year starting an alumni association. So any evolution of the scholarship program, the application process, this year instead of naming them as seniors, we have started naming them as juniors because we see that research is showing that we need to build that relationship a little bit earlier and be involved with that process.
Right.
So under the scholarship umbrella, it is endless, and we are so young and we're evolving, and the foundation really continues to invest in that educational aspect of making sure that we are setting our students up here in Salem to be successful and investing in those students. And then also on the operation and some of, as I mentioned previously, the financial aspects of things.
How many students receive scholarships annually for the past 10 years? Has it been consistent, or has it gone up?
You mean
the number of students who have received scholarships?
In total?
Yeah, per year.
Oh, per year. Per year, we're normally around anywhere between 12 and 15, just kind of depending on the year and the applications that we get in.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell me about the application process.
Application process is you have to either be a resident of Salem City, attending a Salem City public school, and have a 3.0. We look for well-rounded students. We look at financial need, and just the overall desire to pursue higher education.
Right. I was going to say, just to add in, one of the most important things in it is that we are looking at the student very much as a whole and not individual any standards. So we're very intentional that our scholarship committee is made up of a variety of different spaces and coming with different specialties, and very intentional on looking at the student as a whole between our questions where we're looking to evaluate the grit of the student, evaluating the need of the student. Sometimes the data as it lives on paper doesn't share the story of the student. So we are very intentional for the interview questions to also allow them the opportunity to share more about themselves.
So they have to fill out a form. Do they have to write an essay? You mentioned an interview.
Yes.
Right. All the above.
So it's the application process. There are two, and they're short, kind of open-ended essay questions for them to answer. And then from that selection, we go through the scholarship committee. We'll go through and kind of narrow that down. Students are then selected for an interview. They come into our office for an interview, and then from there, final decisions are made.
And how many applicants do you get versus the number so you say you give from 10 to 15, how many applicants do you get?
So this last round, I believe we got about 22 applications.
Okay.
Yeah.
And selected how many because you just named them, didn't you? I mean, I think
we just named them, yeah. So from juniors, we named 11.
Complete, so.
And seniors, we named 12.
Right. So now the juniors don't access the funds until next year.
Correct.
Right. But you're going to be, so are you creating new programs for the rising seniors, let's say the current juniors, the rising seniors? Can you tell me about some of those programs that you're going to do?
So it's going to be a little bit different this year, and we're going to kind of building as we're going. So it will be quarterly, and also making sure that we're partnering with the school in that process, because we don't want to be redundant, but more of a partner and support for the process.
Okay.
So there will definitely be conversations about a lot of financial literacy preparing, evaluating offers, looking at the whole picture, a lot of conversations on whether or not our students are able to have the access to visit the school. Sometimes you have students making decisions on without being able to actually see the campus, which we've seen results in.
Do you guys do trips? Do you schedule trips, things like that?
We do not. We have not in the past, but again, this will be our first year. Prior, they were naming students as juniors. We got away from it, and so now we're back. And so the program is going to look a little bit different as we've learned more about the student population and the need. So we don't take them on visits, but we do understand the importance of seeing the campus before commitment, because we've seen the tail end of making early commitments and not knowing what was important to that student. So those conversations are going to be really big this year.
Right. Good.
What we do to try to help with that is we do, through a grant, we do sponsor a college tour done by the College Success Center.
Okay.
The Community Success Center. They do a college tour every year, so we do pay for Salem City students to attend.
Okay. And where do they go?
This year, I know they visited about 10 schools. I'm not going to be able to list
Like,
them.
are we talking about local, like, New Jersey,
No,
Delaware?
they went out of state.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
they went out of state, yeah. So I think they went as far down as to maybe North Carolina, but they go out of state.
Right. So you don't just offer scholarship money, you also offer a lot of other support.
Yes.
And I know you mentioned a couple of things, but how does that work when you have a student, say, at, I saw Stockton and some other, Bloomfield, I think you had a student at. How do you support them beyond the financial when they're not right here?
Sure. So that is, I think, the primary whenever we talk to students and we talk to parents, because it is all, we take a family approach to this. And it is integral that the student understands that the wraparound services are usually where you fall short. So we think it's always the money, but it's not. It is that wraparound service for the students. So we are on campus visiting our students. We try to visit them on campus once a year.
Okay.
And then it's also the needs. Some students are more in need. Some students have a little bit more support than others. So we're having those conversations. We're talking to them several times a semester, checking in. We do a mid-year report to see kind of where their grades are. The first semester, we're really looking at how are you transitioning, forgetting the education and just how are you transitioning to this new space? How are you transitioning to friendships, waking up, social emotional development, which are things that will cause a student to leave their first semester.
Right.
We've recently, I think we've been 2 years now with BetterHelp, especially after COVID, recognizing that all of these different things, coping skills, anxiety, we are not experts, we are not psychologists,
Right.
but recognizing that those things are things that are turning a lot of students away from school, and providing our students, we do cover that as well, that they have access to sessions with someone to assist. It's not information that they share with us.
Right.
We get the bill so we can arrange to see if our students are using it. And I will say more than 50% of our students are tapping into that as a resource for
That's
them.
great. Are they sharing, like, what is most challenging for them when they leave here and go to a college?
Yeah. I would say the funny thing is it differs depending on the student. I think the social aspect is a transition more than they expect. I think that's the biggest one. So you're getting a new roommate, you have to wake up on a certain time.
Right.
Your teachers aren't following you. Like I said, this is a much smaller community. Some of them are in larger classes.
Right.
You have the conversations like I'm going to sleep and I hear fire departments and fire trucks going by every night, so I have to adjust my sleep. And I pridefully say I think this is one of the great things about the foundation. We really work for that student. We partner, and I tell my students all the time, I'm here to be a partner for you. You're on lead, and I'm here to help you navigate as a support system. And so it's really guided on how they do. A lot of the conversations, we laugh all the time, because when we kind of play catch up and we're talking about the students, these conversations are coming up naturally. So it's not a checklist. It's how's class going? Oh, okay, well, what'd you do this weekend? What clubs did you join? Who are you taught? Because it's those things that they're not recognizing that are going to be part of their true development.
Right.
Joining clubs. We have people who are talking about doing study abroad, which I encourage every student to go to an interest meeting at minimal.
Right.
So it's so much, and I think that's like the best part about it, getting to hear what our students are sharing with us and then how they're developing.
Right.
And my favorite part is the celebration dinner when I look at the pictures and I kind of go over the last 4 years and I'm looking at the student, how they came in, and maybe I thought I knew their need, and then I see how much they grow, and I didn't even know what we were feeding them as their need as a foundation or as the school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
One other problem I think kids face, and I don't think it's just our kids, but I think overall but because they are coming from like a smaller setting going into a larger setting, a lot of our kids take advantage of the IB program at the high school, which is a wonderful
International
program, program. And with that, their GPAs are higher. So you come out, you graduate, you say, hey, I'm graduating with a 4.9, right, and I'm super duper smart, and then you get to the school and you're like, oh, there's 15 other people that are super duper smart too, right? So you go from being like maybe the smartest or second smartest in the class to an environment where you might not be the smartest in the class. And how do I navigate that? How do I adjust to that, right? Because you're going into it where I might not have needed a lot of help, and now I need help. So what that space looks like and being able to adjust to that space.
Right, asking for that help, utilizing tutoring center
Yes.
and things like that that they weren't used to doing.
Yes.
And may not want to go out there. Do students have to maintain a GPA at college to maintain the scholarship?
Yes, still a 3.0.
They still have a 3.0.
Yes.
And if they don't,
We work with them. We don't just drop them.
Okay.
We do not do that.
okay, yeah,
We have steps in place. So, because we are doing meetings with them, we're Zooming with them on a monthly basis, it should not be a surprise when we get your transcript that, something is off.
Right.
We should know that it's coming. And then we work with the student. We give them time to kind of get back on track.
Right.
So, but no, we don't just cut them off.
right. How do you? I didn't mean to say cut them off, but kind of. How do you measure success?
You want to take that one?
I mean, you can take it as long term, you can take it
Sure,
short
yeah,
term,
yeah,
or
yeah.
both.
Yeah. So for me, success is defined by completion.
Yeah.
And so I guess that can be also a very kind of lucid definition as well. But I want you to start, I want you to finish, right? So if we're walking in and saying, this is what I want to do, it doesn't mean that you don't change your
Major.
you don't change your major. It doesn't mean you don't change your path. It doesn't mean you don't change your university. Those are just, veer off a little U-turn,
Right.
But that's the biggest thing is making sure that your path will be unique, but you finish. And so I'm always kind of pushing, what does that look like? What are your goals? And then how do we align what your goals are to make sure that we get to the ultimate finish line? And that's why I say the partnership is really important. We're constantly having that conversation. And I tell students, I enjoy when you come in and you say, I'm going to be an engineer. I'm working for Tesla. I'm leaving tomorrow. And then it's like 2 weeks and it's like, well, and I'm always encouraged, it's okay. And we all share our stories. We're very, very open at the foundation that I was serving Kobe Bryant and now I'm serving you. So we all so those things, it's okay.
Well, you name dropped that, man.
Right? Those are the things that we thought we were going to do, and that's where, and it doesn't make it, this is, and I say it all the time, I feel like with this role, and I don't say it, I say it to Courtney all the time, I feel like I have the cheat code because I absolutely love what I do, but this wasn't the plan when I was in college. And we're asking, you at 16, 17, 18 to decide what you're going to do for the rest of your life.
Right.
That might not always plan out that way. Right. So success is saying, here's what I want to do today, and that's going to work. And the empath is graduation. Yeah. So what you're walking across the stage and who they're saying you are might change in those 4 years, but let's make sure we get there.
Yeah, a lot of them step in, they don't even realize what they really want to do even existed.
Absolutely.
They learn about it later and they're like, oh my. Absolutely. So if they do change majors, suddenly, because a lot of students now, they're not graduating in 4 years, they're graduating 4.5 and 5 years. Does the scholarship cover that extra time, or are they, I don't want to say cut off again, but cut off after 4 years?
They're able to use those scholarship funds and extend it. And might I pridefully say, we had 30% of our students graduate in 3 years.
Wow.
So we are beating the average at the.
Now, how are they doing that? Are they doing
that?
Summer semesters? Or
So a combination of summer semesters. We also, one of the grants that I'm sure Courtney will get into is that we pay to make sure that the credits that they're taking, the AP courses that they're taking are paid from the community college. We make that payment.
So you're paying for like the dual credit program?
Yes. We do support that. And so when they're going to school, I'm very, very adamant on making sure those credits are assessed immediately. Because what happens is you go into school, they say we took your credits, but they didn't assess them to the correct spaces, right? This is going to Math 101. This is going, they just put it in a bucket for your extracurricular, and then later on they disperse them. The problem with that is now you're taking classes, again, repetitively that you didn't need.
Right.
So the number one thing is a lot of our students are going in with enough credits to almost make them a sophomore.
Okay.
And so a lot of them they have already taken Math 101 or Math 102. And then I also encourage students, if math is not your strength or science is not your strength, take it by itself at the community college. So we talk about that a lot, freshman, sophomore year.
Right.
Those two things alone are able to bring down, and then you might have a semester where typically you take 15, you're like, look, I'm going to take an extra 2 credits,
Right.
and it's going to save me a year.
Right, and take your harder one to the community college because then you can transfer the credits over, but the GPA doesn't transfer over.
Absolutely.
Right.
So you keep your GPA up.
Yes.
Yes.
And you have a lot of students, and then we're talking about a lot of financial literacy with these students, and so this may be their first time talking about credit, talking about debt, and once they see those numbers that, hey, we're talking about you saving a whole year of tuition, right? And we're talking about housing, we're talking about food, and we have schools that are costing up to $92,000, and you're talking about, even if it's only additional, let's say your out-of-pocket's only $10,000, what could you do with $20,000?
Right.
And so also, like you said, that money never, I don't want to say never, it doesn't go away. So let's say they finish 3 years early. They have the opportunity to go for a master's.
Okay.
So let's say you still have $25,000 that you still have in your funding. We will use that. So just strategic planning, and like I said, we're talking constantly throughout the year. So if your plan is not your plan this year and we're talking about it next year, hey, if you finish in 3 years, they have a 4+1 program.
Right.
You're going to be kind of around the same tuition a little bit more if you can save that year. So we have those conversations.
Right. The 4+1 program would be you're getting your bachelor's and your master's pretty much at the same time.
Yes.
Right. So tell me some success stories. It sounds, good. You've been doing this for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You must have some college graduates, maybe some graduate students, maybe some master's degree levels. Give me some stories, some success stories.
Sure.
Some people who have done wow.
One of our students graduated and actually came back to Salem City and is teaching.
Okay.
So that's amazing.
Yeah.
We have a student that just graduated. I'll tell them about that student that just graduated.
We have a lot. We actually have a lot graduating right now. We have 9, so I'm not sure which that one is.
But it's a aeronautical program.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yes. So, okay, I'm like, we have so many success. I hate to brag on our kids.
Like you're talking in code.
Yes, I do. I say we get to brag. My job is to brag. You said, what do? I get to brag about the students in Salem City across the world. Yeah. So we had a student who went to Patrick Irvine, who is the son of actually a teacher at the school. And he went to Emory-Riddle. He was commissioned, I believe. What's today? Is today Wednesday?
Yes.
Today's Wednesday.
I believe he was commissioned, I believe, yesterday.
Okay.
And he graduated on Monday, I believe. And he ranked incredibly high being commissioned, which I learned more about through this process because they're always teaching me things. He's joined the military.
Yeah, what is that? Okay.
And so, so they look at, I believe they look at your grades, as you're going through to get tested, physical testing, all these things. And out of thousands, he was ranked 90 something. I don't know the exact number, but incredibly proud, incredibly smart student, great program at Emory-Riddle. I knew he had his pilot license very early in his freshman year because he was taking lessons as he was here.
Right.
But just a great student. Did phenomenal work and is going to go on absolutely to do phenomenal things as most of our students do.
Right. So is the funding just the endowment, or are you getting other, because you had mentioned earlier, kind of looking over because of federal cuts and things like that. So I'm making the assumption that you do get
We
other
do not.
funding.
It's just the endowment.
It's just the endowment.
Yes.
So how are some cuts affecting your foundation?
It affects the students, right, overall.
Okay.
So, scholarships or funding that they thought they might have has gone away.
Right.
We have an issue of undocumented students, right? And so, the question comes up, well, should I fill out a FAFSA? If I fill out a FAFSA, is that going to put me on the radar?
Knock on the door, right?
Right. So what that looks like, if I can't apply for financial aid, what does that look like?
Right.
And then I think there's also, and like Kim said, it's really financial literacy, and that's why parent engagement is so important. We hope the parents are involved. We want to work with the parents as well, as far as, because in their mind they're thinking, oh, I'm getting $50,000, right? So I can really go to any school I want to, right? That's not quite what that means.
Not quite what it means at all. When,
right. So if we're picking a school that's $90,000 a year,
right,
then we need to talk to parents to say, well, do you have $40,000 a year to meet that gap?
Yeah.
And normally the answer is no, right?
Sure, of course.
So we're looking at all of those things. But like I said, with the executive orders that have come down recently, just trying to, figure out what exactly that means for our students. what programs are being cut, what programs are not being cut, what that looks like, and kind of go from there. Everything's kind of up in the air because an executive order will come down, then it'll be put on pause, they'll file lawsuits. So just kind of keeping our students aware. We get frantic phone calls from students, from parents, like, hey, what does this mean? We really don't know, but we're watching it just like you're watching it.
Right.
And the good news is, like, we work with our students as much as we can.
So do the majority of your students then receive, Pell Grants and other type of things that pay for, essentially, they get a free ride through, and I don't mean free ride in a negative way, but a free ride, through college, so.
A lot of them do, and we're last in dollars, so we go through and kind of see what they're getting. Sometimes their packages are heavy their freshman year, and then they kind of fall off.
Yeah.
We talk to them again, if they get a merit scholarship, and that merit scholarship says you need to maintain a 3.8, understand what that means, because unlike us, the school's not going to work with you, right? If you drop to a 3.75, you've lost that scholarship, right, immediately. Yeah. So just kind of understanding what that looks like and kind of helping them through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Are students coming back to you and telling you their stories? You had mentioned before. What are they saying?
It's coming back a lot of different ways. I think the reflective space of, I remember when you said this and now I'm living it. And when they're graduating, I met with a student today and we were talking about, he was like, these people kept calling me and you told me I need to answer my email and it was loan repayment and I'm 3 months late. And so I'm like, he was like, this is really adulthood. Or we're talking about working and, it's like I'm thinking about buying a house and stuff. So I love hearing those stories about how some of the things they're actually using, even if it's not in school later on. Right. And with the Alumni Association, it's always super rewarding as we're starting to get this Alumni Association and working on creating an e-board currently. I'm hearing a lot of stories because we wanted to know, why do you want to be a part of this?
Right.
What did it mean to you? We need to know, because this is going to be an expression of who you are, and you're going to be the person that best help the current students to continue this. And so it was great hearing like some of those stories. Like some of those phone calls meant more than I knew in that very moment. I tell Courtney, I tell the board all the time, during COVID when the visits kind of slowed down, weren't going to the campuses, some of them weren't on campus. Right. And I was like, I don't know, is it the best financial decision to visit these students? We're spending money to go visit them, and they're kind of like, who is this lady who's come to visit? And it was in those moments that I realized how important those are. Sometimes I'm the only person that is able to come visit that student. Like you said, finding out where some of the locations are. One of the things I like to do when I first visit is, hey, give me a tour of the campus. They're like, well, what do you want to see? I want to see what you think is important to you.
Nice.
And so it's kind of like, well, here's where I work out. Because it tells me a lot about your experience thus far. Right. And so those things are really important. But it's a vast majority of what the foundation provides, that the students are coming back and saying, this meant something, or this is how it changed. And we take that. Another thing we do, we definitely take everything that's being said into account, because we're constantly changing. Courtney's probably tired of me coming around. I talk to the student, and this is what we need to change. We need to change this. We need to do more of this. It's just like, and that's one of the beautiful things I think about this foundation. And with the board support, is that they continue to support in understanding that the needs of our students will consistently change, and that they're willing to be a chameleon to that change, socially, emotionally, politically. The climates, as they change, we have the ability to kind of work through those for our students.
No, that's great, because sometimes in public education, people are teaching like they did 20, 30 years ago, and it's not the same anymore at all. How about parent involvement? You require that at all, or is there something
we
that you're doing
definitely try? It's a big piece. It's definitely something we have to work on across the board. We would love more parent engagement, especially with the younger kids. But it really just depends on a student's family situation. Some parents are super duper involved, and some are not. It just depends. But we do try to treat all of the students equally. So like Kim said, we're doing campus visits. We send out care packages during the year, so they're at least getting something, right? Because you can't make the assumption like, oh, we know, their parents are going to send them something or something like that. And it's the little things. I mean, they'll call back and tell us like, this was my first package that I got, and it just means so much.
They're first generation college.
Yes.
So it's not part of the culture, if you will, the educational culture.
They'll send pictures sometimes of their dorm rooms with some of the stuff that we send them, which is always exciting.
Yes.
And then regarding the parent, this year we just brought back something that they had done in the past, which is their parent orientation.
Yes.
So just like we have a student orientation, we were able to orient the parents, and it was great because we had alum parents come, So they've been through the process, just like a student. They can
Right.
talk to their experience because it's going to be different.
Right.
We have students who are in school, their parents came, and then we have students who are rising into the program that came as well. And it wasn't a presentation, it was more of kind of like a workshop. Break in, have questions. What questions do you have? Bring things back. Then we talked about them as a whole. And the feedback that we received overall was that the parents just appreciate it. Because just like the students know what to expect,
Right.
they also don't know how to support their student or what they should expect as their student to evolve.
Right, exactly. So aside from the scholarship, and aside from the ACOR fund, you offer grants to other institutions that benefit Salem youth
Yes.
Educationally. Can you
Yes.
tell me what some of those are and what organizations you work with?
Sure. So, like Kim alluded to, we fund the dual credit program with Salem Community College.
Right,
And that's for kids that are taking dual credits.
like the
And-
AP classes or the IB classes?
Yes, yep, for both. We fund a summer program, which is Rowan STEAM Academy.
Okay.
We will sponsor students to go middle school and high school.
So you're sponsoring the kids. There's a cost for them to attend that program, and you'll
Yes.
sponsor that.
They have to apply and get in,
Right.
but then we work directly with Rowan. They'll send us a list of the students. And basically, the only thing they need to do to qualify for us to sponsor is they have an Acorn Fund account.
Okay.
So as long as they have their Acorn Fund account, we will pay for them to attend that during the summer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, we will sponsor the college tour, and I think they just went on that in like mid-April. We sponsored that, and then previously we had sponsored an organization that's local, One Village Alliance. They do a summer program called Around the World in the Summer, and we sponsored their summer program. So they offer, I think it's 5 weeks of free summer programming for students.
So if students are interested in these programs, how do they get in touch? They can just give you a call and say, "Hey, I'm interested. Can you give me money?"
They definitely can. They can contact us and we can direct them to the right place. So like I said, for Rowan, I know their application deadline is coming up fairly quickly. They need to apply directly with Rowan STEAM Academy.
Right.
But, once they get accepted, then Rowan pretty much sends us an email to say, hey, just verify this student.
Okay.
And then they will send us the bill at the end of the summer.
Okay, so they never have to worry about that.
They do not, no.
That's great. So tell me something about the Forman Youth Board. What is that all about?
Sure.
All right, so it was created because we wanted to have a voice. We were sitting at the table thinking about what do the children of Salem want to do? What is important to them surrounding education and outreach for the community? And so we were making them up. The same thing as we created the care packages. Like, what we think they really like is not what they really like.
Right.
And so as we're sitting around, I'm like, why are we trying to figure this thing out when we can engage our own community, and I'm pretty sure they have a better idea
Right.
of what these kids want. And that's kind of what the root of it was.
Right.
And so basically it's kind of trying to feed back into the youth that is kind of up and coming, mainly in high school. I think it's open to 8th. I don't know if we've had 8th grade, but it's been like 9th through 12th grade. And so it's kind of giving back to the community service, how we can help those students as well. Conversations around education. They learn, of course, about the programs that we have to offer. When we have our block party, our youth board is actually out in the community because these are their neighbors that they're talking to
Right.
about the work that we're doing. And it's a direct effect. Hey, I have an Acorn Fund. And making sure that our students understand what that is, because if I said, hey, do you have an Acorn Fund? It means nothing to you. But having a student go out into the community, speak to a parent or speak to a classmate and say, hey, this is what it is.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, I can explain it to you. And so it's just become like a small family. They work on the care packages. They actually do them themselves. They come into the office. They kind of suggest things to buy. We purchase.
Right.
They box them up. They write personalized letters, fold them
Nice.
up, and send them off. So
How many people are on this board?
right now, I think 12. I don't think I think
about
12 right now.
Yeah.
Right? Right. Now, that's a great idea. I'm interested in what you sent and the kids said no, that's not to send.
They never really said no, but it was things that we didn't think of. So the one thing that ended up being really, really popular, one of the kids said, they need stuff to decorate their dorm room. So like the hang up lights.
Right.
And I'm like, who would want lights? And I mean, that was like when we get the feedback, they're like, the lights are great. Send more lights. So I'm like, okay, lights. That probably wouldn't have been high on my list.
Right.
And the snacks are really, really
Right.
big. They need snacks, they need candy. And we're like, we can't put so much in the box. But
Right.
Yeah,
And the type of snack I think is going to be important
yes,
too.
yes,
Right?
yes.
You don't want to,
yes.
Pringles. or
Granola
something.
bars, yeah.
You're right. Granola bars, right?
We're
Healthy.
good for the granola bars, but yes. So they're good for that type
Or
of stuff.
Takis or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the biggest challenges that Forman Acton has faced in the past 10 years?
So initially it was, and I tell people all the time, we go to conferences and things like that, I would have never thought it would be difficult to give away free money, right? But it's been difficult. And it's difficult because I believe it's just 10 years into it, we're doing a little bit better, but initially it was like, I've never heard of you. What's the catch, right? So you're just going to give my kid money, right? It's just not really believable.
Right.
There's also, like I said, we need to have the parent engagement as far as understanding and knowledge, right? To understand, well, parents will say, some parents will say, I'm not going to really sign my kid up because I don't think they're going to go to college, right? But this is a decision that we're making for the child very early on, right? Or, I know what my kids' grades are, they're not going to college, right? So then it's us trying to convince them, like, well, there's no harm in you signing up. You're not going to lose anything if you sign them up.
Right.
And then it's also the environment that we serve, right? It's, people are focused on more important things, right? We all know Salem City is a food desert, right? So how am I eating? How am I paying bills? Sending my kid to college is not top of my priority list.
Right.
So, one of our other challenges is when people move, right? We're not on that list to call to say, hey, I moved, here's my new address, right? So when we send out...
Within Salem.
Within
the
Salem,
city.
even just within Salem. So we send out quarterly statements. So once the statement comes back and says, non-deliverable, then it's like, okay, well, how do we get in contact with this person?
Right.
So just that kind of communication and things like that, I think, have also been a challenge for us over the last 10 years. But we're definitely getting better. Like I said, we're now partnering with the schools, and the schools are making sure the kids are signed up or sending letters home so the parents can see, like, oh, let me make sure I signed them up or make sure I updated my address.
Right.
So.
How about a student who graduates, decides to work a couple years, and then says, hey, you know what? I think I want to go to college. Are they still eligible for the scholarship?
Not the scholarship, because that had to be applied for their junior year,
Right.
with the intention of going to college
Right after high school.
right out of high school. But their Acorn Fund, they have until the age of 25 to use that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's significant.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very significant. So where do you see Forman Acton in the next 10 years?
My hope is that we're still right here, right? We're still in Fenwick
Doing the same
Plaza.
thing.
We're still doing the same thing. We're still helping
Building the
students.
endowment.
It's still growing.
Still growing.
Yes.
Despite dips in the market, it's still growing.
Yeah, right.
And, on our 20-year anniversary, we're looking back to see all of the students that we have served. My hope is, one of our scholars is working for the foundation. And just, continue to promote the work that we do.
Right. And how do you think the work that you're doing is helping the city overall?
I think education is just important across the board, right? So whatever that means to you, whether that's I didn't necessarily go to college, but we're just planting the seeds, right? And that's the important thing with the Acorn Fund is like I have the ability to do it. Whether or not you actually did it is planting the seed that you have the ability to do it.
Right.
And then maybe taking a kid that thought college was unattainable and changing their mind to the point where they've gone to college, they've graduated, they have a wonderful career, and they're coming back to Salem City to help out, to serve, to mentor other students. I think that's just, the goal and would be phenomenal.
Right. Kim?
Yeah, I would definitely say for me, education is equal to access and opportunity. And like Courtney was saying, I think we can speak to it. We're removed. We're not from Salem community, right? We're coming in and wanting to make this impact. But having people with lived experiences who were your neighbor or went to church with you or, was a mentor to you when you were in Salem and seeing a person who you thought would do the same thing, right? Excelling, doing wonderful things. And that's what, even when I'm looking at the Alumni Association, I want to put them on a pedestal so that we can share with Salem and Salem and beyond what these kids are doing.
Right.
as the scholarship program is continuing to evolve, that's my thing. I get to eyewitness and work with these kids, and I see firsthand how they grow. And we've been able to share our story all around. So recently, I went to NYU Abu Dhabi to discuss what we're doing right here.
Right.
That speaks value. It's not about what I'm doing. It's not about what the foundation is doing. I had that opportunity to speak to what the kids here in this small city that a lot of people count out, what those students are doing.
Right.
And so that's what, when we're able to get into those spaces, it's because of the work the students are doing. And so I told Courtney, I said, we have 2 years to get a student there, because our students have the skill, the talent, and we're the door. We're going to provide the access for that student to have an opportunity they didn't know existed. And that student coming back to this town and saying, I was educated in another country, and I went, while I was in school, I visited 7 other countries. And I stand here today as this person with this degree. That's what it's all about.
Right. Wonderful. Well, thank you, guys. If somebody wants more information, how do they get in touch with you?
So they can go to our website, which is formanscholars.org. They can stop by our office or right in Fenwick Plaza across from Pat's Pizza.
Phone number?
We do have a phone number.
You have it on speed dial?
I do. It's 856
Right.
759-2934. Or I think that's an email, right?
Yeah.
All of our emails are our first name at formanscholars.org.
.org.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
Kim Smith, Courtney Swanson Davis, thank you very much for the great conversation.
Thank you.
And the wonderful work that you're doing.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching and or listening to Follow Salem Podcast. I'm Dean Johnson. Have a great day.